All right, should be back live in the room. Let me check here and bring this up.
So how are you guys doing?
We're doing well. We're doing well. We are live in the chat room now. We should be live in the chat room. Mac, you got a pair of headphones?
Let me, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, what about my video? Is it on?
Your video is not on. Now it's spinning.
No.
There you are.
All right. Getting a little loud. How you doing, buddy? Where you at? You back up here in the States?
I am in Michigan right now,
Oh, okay.
of all places.
Oh,
Getting ready for my first Michigan winter.
Oh, well, I'm sorry you have to set up with a Michigan winter, but, you know, what can I say? So how you guys doing tonight?
Cool. I'm doing great. It's good to have Mac here on too tonight, man. We really miss you down here, brother.
Yeah, I miss it. I miss it down there a lot too. Think about it every day.
Oh, can't imagine. Can't imagine. We talk about you every time we get to the bush to train the students. It's like you were there, man. We are all, you know. And I still find the cores that you used to make, you know, spread in the bush sometimes, you know, at the places where we used to camp. You know, your signs are all over the place because Mac is like this. When he's doing nothing, like he's just sitting by and he's doing core, he's making core. He's, you know, like that's what he does. But he doesn't take it all back home. He leaves those, you know, bundles of cord, those, you know, rolls hanging in branches and trees, and you just find it every time you get back there, man. It's his mark.
You know what? Between the two of you, there's been some beautiful videos, some great stuff from both of you. All the things you've done, all the things you teach. But you know, there's one video that stands out in my mind as the greatest video of all from both of you. And I know you guys would talk, and maybe it's the bush bed, or maybe it's the, you know, the modifications of the machete. I got to tell you, my favorite one is the birth of the bush baby.
Oh.
Yeah, my Hennessy hammock.
That's right.
Yeah, that was.
I bought that 10 by 10 tarp just because you had one down there, Mac. As well as it worked for you guys down there, I bought that 10 by 10 tarp.
No, in the jungle you cannot. Tarp is one thing you do not skimp on in the jungle.
That's. I mean, if you want to save yourself some time and trouble, man, you really gotta have, you know, a piece of tarp on you, a piece which is big enough to cover your camp area or hammock area. Otherwise, you will be in trouble. I mean, especially the rainy season. That's the way it is.
That is the only dry space you're going to have, is what you bring with you under that tarp. So I always go with a 2x4 or 3x4 meter tarp.
That's right.
So last time Giuliano had his first show, we had, what did we have, 24,000 or something like that?
24,704 people.
Oh, not that he would keep track of it like that, Mac. Yeah, 24,000 views in less than 24 hours.
I was like, wow, that was awesome. That was awesome. Didn't expect that, really.
Well, see, Briar Goat Killer says he really likes the machete and bush knife mods that Giuliano did. Really cool. LP's here. Kohei it's an honor. Earliest memories of watching survival vids on YouTube with your neck knife survival kit.
Hanging on my bedpost right now.
Hanging on the bedpost. Would you have plans to get back down? I know you're a missionary. That's what takes you back down there. You have plans to get back down that way, or?
Right now, no. Actually, we have left the mission, and I am living full time in Michigan right now. Though I am a permanent resident of Brazil, so I have to be down there every 2 years to keep that active. So Brazil will definitely be a part of my future. But currently, I'm not a missionary anymore. No.
Well, there's one thing I would like to talk about Mac for people that don't know. He is the machete guru out there. Seriously, and a lot of people say that, come on, man, you are from like the jungle country, and then an American came up with all those modifications. Yes, seriously. The machete for us down here was like a blade that we pretty much used for everything, but there wasn't much we did in terms of the profile we had. When I first met Mac and I saw what he had done, the transformations he had put on his machete blade, I was like, come on, man, how did that guy figure it out? And when first time we took it to the bush and I used it there, man, I saw all the versatility and the possibilities and how much he had enhanced the use of the machete. I was like, dude, you really nailed that one. Seriously, I mean, he actually improved the machete for the use of the machete for us down here to a point that I don't really believe that anybody had ever seen it down here before until Matt came up with those mods, man. Seriously.
Well, I have, and I have had before YouTube. I have a 14-inch Tronolo machete that I inherited from a friend of mine who passed away. And this was, over probably 15, almost 20 years ago. So now, it's a 14, I think it's a 14-inch blade, Tronolo machete, or 14, whatever it is. And anyway, what is the machete? And I have so many people ask, and they asked Giuliano last week, what machete would you recommend? I mean, you know, well, they go with the military machetes and all that kind of stuff. And I know it depends on where you're at and what's going on, but if you could pick just one machete, is there a brand you would go with?
Well, I don't know about brands, but picking one machete, that's like saying which golf club is best. You know, you gotta carry a bag full of them if you want to play that game. For my purposes in Brazil, I never met a job that a Tramontina and a machete couldn't do. Up here in North America, I really like the Ontario CT1, the 12-inch Ontario. I think that's one of the most versatile blades that you can carry in North America. You don't need a long jungle machete here in North America. You need something short, heavy, that chops in hardwood well. And I always, in North America, I always carry my CT1.
I was going to say, is that because of the weight?
The weight is good. It works really. It's just convenient. It's a convenient size. It handles the modifications really well that I'd like to put on them. And I've never, here in the States, never felt for doing bushcraft type stuff or wilderness survival that I've needed more than the 12-inch Ontario.
Now, even up here, do you normally carry a machete up here?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Not because I have to, but because I'm so used to using a machete for everything. That unless it's in the summertime in the U.S., I always carry a machete, and it's usually my 12-inch Ontario. That's because everything I do in the bush, pretty much I use my machete, and I'm kind of lost without it.
I would say it's more like an addiction.
It's a compulsion. I tell you what, I went on a winter camping trip a couple of years ago, and I've got a video on this on my YouTube channel that's in Portuguese, but I was carrying my Glock on that trip on my right side. And every time I needed to do something, I'd reach down for my machete and I'd get the handle of my Glock, and I was like, okay, I got to do something about this. I need like a cross-draw holster or something. It wasn't working at all to not have the machete there.
That's what I'm talking about.
Now, somebody, angry old timer in the room, he says he's got the Gerber machete with a sawback. Personally, I don't like the Gerber. I just don't like the feel of it. It's a little flimsy for me, but then I've also tried Cold Steel had one that was like 3 millimeters thick. That was way too heavy. I mean, that was more like a battle sword than a machete for myself. That was way too heavy, way too thick for it.
I've never been a real fan of the sawback machetes. I don't think they handle. They're just. I'd rather have the modifications that I put on a flat regular spine than have a sawback personally.
Yeah,
if I need a saw, I'll use a folding saw.
That's right. Having a flat angle there, like a flat spine, it definitely improves the use of that area rather than the saw, because you can scrape a lot of wood, that you can use for fire, and a lot of uses here, man. So I think it's even better than the saw.
Well, scraping on one part and crushing and cracking on the other, and doing it that way. Also, the fact that you can grab hold the back of the machete.
Exactly.
As Mac has used it many times for a draw knife and things like that. You know, those things are defeated. And I mean, how much really can you saw? Is a saw on a machete is like a saw on one of them Rambo survival knives? Does it really saw very well?
Yeah, I've never had good experience with them, so I'd rather not have a saw back. It's the first feature, the first mission of any knife is to be sold. Okay, and it's a sales feature. They think, oh, look at the utility of that. It looks like a saw, but they very rarely function well as saws.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that really count for, you know, selling a knife is the looks. So the more teeth-like aspects you have on that blade, the more likely, you know, people will be to get impressed by the looks of it. Like a few weeks ago, I was in a shop, and this kid showed up with his survival knife, and man, I am not kidding. I mentioned before on some of my videos that some knives really look like shark teeth, you know, that the jaw, and his blade really lived up to that kind of profile. It really looked like a shark jaw, because it had teeth and serrations and weird angles all over that, you know, blade, and to the point that it was almost like useless. It could impress the heck of a lot, you know, a lot of people when for that. Wow, man! Like if you're planning to kill an alien or fight the predator, but if in the real world, that is useless piece of metal in the. I mean, it's of course it's better than nothing, right? Okay, but
here's a question in the room for you guys. Jason lives in North Woods of Minnesota, and he says I'm using less and less his hatchet, and he's using a bow saw more. He wants to know, would a machete do a little bit of both?
No, look, in the North Woods, a machete will not do the job of an axe in terms of making a large quantity of firewood. And that's where, in the tropics, remember, for a night in the tropics where we are, even in the dead of winter, overnight lows maybe 50 degrees, you really only need to make about a cubic meter of firewood to have an all-night fire. Now, in the North Woods or where it's cold, a machete just will not create that kind of volume of firewood, so a bow saw and an axe is much better for the North Woods than a machete would be.
A machete's not made, if I'm correct on this, you guys both use them, so you tell me, a machete's not made to cut down a tree.
It depends on the tree. We've cut down some pretty big trees with machetes, but no, it's not designed for that kind of pounding. You'll wear your arm out trying to do that with a machete.
that's right.
And he says he's got a lot of oak and a lot of maple.
Get an axe.
Get an axe, man.
And there's one thing there.
An axe or a bow saw.
Regarding the difference between the areas where we are, the bush here is much more choked. I mean, you got a way more vegetation to actually chop through, and this is one thing. The areas where we usually go to here, they are like islands in the jungle. I think I mentioned that before, because we follow down trails and we don't really have to use the machete so much, because we pretty much know where we're going, unless we plan or decide to step off the trail, which we hardly ever do, because we know the areas and everything is there already, so we don't really have to do a lot of hacking and chopping. But if we had to, the bushes here are pretty, and there's no other way you can navigate without a machete in most of the areas here. Whereas the bushes where you guys are, you know, trees, at least in most of those places, I guess, the trees are not really close, or not too close to the point that you really gotta, you know, hack through them. And which makes the use of the machete less necessary, less important than the axe, I guess, because the axe will be more powerful when it comes to actually chopping bigger and thicker and even harder wood that you might find in your area than a machete could do. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. It depends on well, Max would know, because he goes back and forth between the two, but it depends on your area and what you're doing with it, I guess, right?
That's right.
Now,
the U.S. can get pretty thick in some places during the summer, but you do not depend on a machete in most of North America like you do in the jungle in South America. You cannot move in Minas Gerais, in our state, you cannot move off trail without a machete.
Yeah, we had talked about that last show where in the movies they showed a guy hack once or twice right and then hack once left and then take 5 or 10 steps and then hack again. And I said, well, I've been in the jungle and it doesn't work that way. You look at it and go, how am I going to get through this?
Now, there are places where we would go where you literally have to chop a hole through the taquara, this like bamboo-like stuff to get forward. And it's not like that everywhere you go, especially when you get out of the jungle and into the Cerrado areas. It's very open, but then you might go downhill and cross through an area of jungle again and have to chop another hole. So it's just, you literally have to cut your way forward in a lot of places.
All right, 2 quick questions for you guys here in the room. One, Briar Goat Killer would like to know, Mac, are you going to do a winter outdoors vids while you're up here? And the other question is what do you guys, have you ever heard of marble knives and axes, and what do you think of them?
First of all, the winter vids, right now, I moved back to the United States in 2 suitcases and a duffel bag full of jungle gear. I do not have winter gear yet, so I'm working on that. But yes, I definitely want to upgrade my winter survival skills, though I do not feel qualified to teach them. So I'm behind the learning curve. I grew up in Pennsylvania, but I'm behind the curve when it comes to actually teaching winter skills. Marbles, knives, and axes, I have heard of them. They are good knives, but I do not personally own it.
Me neither. And I can say squat about the winter conditions because it doesn't get really cold down here where I am. So that's Mac. He's the one to talk about it better than I can do. All right, Rich, did you get those pictures? The last one, not the last one, but the one, the update on the map that I sent you down earlier?
I have pictures from last week.
No, actually, I sent you down here on Skype one picture.
Send me one picture on Skype. Let me check it.
Yeah, it's picture 2 update. That's the name of it. It shows the map with some areas. And actually, let me, as you're looking for that picture, let me actually do the briefing here on what we are doing, what we have been discussing here. And Mac will be, joining us on the comments and bringing his points of view too. For last show, we actually started defining and pointing out the main different, let's say, biomes that we have here in Brazil, and we can pretty much divide them into 3 different areas. We have tropical forest areas, which actually have to do with 3 different areas that are considered tropical forest places that we have here in Brazil. Then we have Cerrado, which is like a semi-arid area, and Caatinga, which is pretty dry, pretty like a thorny shrub area that we got here, where temperature gets really hot. And we also started talking about those different tropical forests that we have here. The first one we pointed out was the Atlantic forest. And the reason why it is called Atlantic forest is because it follows the coast of Brazil, the Atlantic coast of Brazil, from the upper, let's say from the upper part on the right, on the upper corner of Brazil on the right, down to the south part of the country. So it follows down that coast, the Atlantic Ocean coast. So that's why that forest is called the Atlantic forest. Now, do you have the pictures there?
I believe I have the picture up. Do you see that in the chat room?
Hold on a second. Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
Okay, guys. So what we are looking at here is the main biomes of Brazil, and you look at numbers 1, 2, and 3 in red. The numbers are in red. Those are the areas which represent the tropical forests which have here. Those areas pretty much helped shaping the image that people usually have of Brazil abroad, because like we discussed before, people usually tend to think of Brazil as this big jungle area, full of Indians and leopards and all that stuff, which is not the case. But the 3 areas where we mostly have the tropical forest conditions are those represented by numbers 1, 2, and 3. Number 1 is the Amazon. So actually, the forest, which is believed to occupy the whole territory, Brazilian territory, only occupies the northern upper part of the country, right? Right, that upper portion there. And then we have number 2, which is the Pantanal area. Pantanal is a much smaller area if compared to the other ones. You can see it is the 10 area in which the number 2 is. And that stands for swamp and flooded areas, and you got all kinds of weird animals there and vegetation. And number 3, like we mentioned before, is the Atlantic forest that follows down the Atlantic Ocean. Now, when people say, "Oh, I want to come down to Brazil," which one of those 5 areas are you going? Because we still have number 4, which is Cerrado, and number 5, which is desert. So if you're coming down to Brazil, you first have to understand what part of the country you are going to. And even if you come down to tropical forests, you will find a lot of differences in terms of the biomes and the plants and flora and fauna that we have in all those, so-called tropical forests. The Atlantic forest itself, it can be divided into 6 subdivisions, which will have, certain subcategories of plants and animals which have adapted for those subconditions. As for the Amazon, oh my gosh, you have so many other different areas inside of Amazon, which is considered the Amazon forest is not just a one solid, unique piece of a territory. You have a whole lot of big variations within that forest that dictates different either survival approaches or different bushcraft approaches, just because the resources will be very different, very different. So this is what we would like to discuss here today. Some of the features which are present in the Pantanal and in the Amazon area. But I would like to give Mac the chance to point out any comments, to say and to make any comments here if he feels like. You got anything to say, Mac?
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the really cool things about living in Belo Horizonte was that we were on a transition zone between the Mata Atlântica, the Atlantic forest, and the Cerrado. So, and we also there, you got to take into account is Brazil's a very rugged place in terms of elevation. We had mountains in Minas Gerais there that went all the way up to 6,000 feet of elevation, which is a whole different biome in itself. So literally, the place I would do our training with Ferragua for 10 years, if you were in the lowlands, you were in the Atlantic forest. If you went up above that, on the plateau, you were in Cerrado, and if you climbed the tops of the mountains, you were in a tropical alpine ecosystem, which was totally different than the other two. And that was all within one day's walk. And then, depending on the time of year, if it's rainy season and you're in the lowland jungle, it's like being in a tropical rainforest. And then in dry season, if you're up in the Cerrado, it's just like being in a desert. So you literally, in the same exact place, have to use jungle skills at one time of the year and desert skills another time of the year. Within the same piece of ground, within the same 100 square kilometers, you're going to find both desert and jungle. It's a very unique place to live.
And you can see that on the map too, the little circled area, just a little above the number 3 on the left corner, on the left side, you will see a red circle, which is actually the area where we are. So I don't know if you can see too well from the map, but we are exactly on the transition of those two different areas. We got
on the player in the chat room, if you click on the little green box at the bottom of the actual video player, you can expand that to as big as your screen so that you can see the map better.
That's right.
Like you said, they're talking about the little red circle right above the 3, off to the left-hand side of the 3 there.
That's right.
That is where you guys were at, correct?
Exactly. You can see that we are right in the middle, right, in between the transition of those two totally different areas. And the cool thing about this is because if you move down south, you will be in the Atlantic forest. If you move up north, you will be deep in the Cerradão or Cerrado. But right here where we are, we got the two places, the two biomes pretty much, living, coexisting here.
It all depends on elevation.
Exactly.
So in one day, so in one day you can walk from the tropical rainforest up to mountain regions by passing through desert, arid lands, and everything else, all within one day.
Exactly.
Sort of.
So you'd have to deal with water conditions, you'd have to deal with height elevations, you'd have to deal with the different biomes, different animals, everything, all
Right.
in one day.
The whole shebang. That's
So
right.
in terms of getting wilderness survival experience, it's a great place to train if you live there, because in one part of the year you'll be in a rainforest and the wet conditions and the rotting wood and the choking jungle, and then literally you can walk from there. You can walk a few kilometers and be up in areas that are cerrado, which in the dry season will require desert techniques.
That's
Now,
right.
Is that where the school is also?
Exactly. That's the area that we train in. Is we can take people to all those different areas.
That's awesome. That's great down there.
It is. It is.
I got to get down there.
Oh yeah, you sure do, man. Sure do.
Bring me and Dave. We'll come down.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Speaking of Dave, he's got his show this week on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Dave and Chris Kane are going to do their show.
Cool.
9 p.m. this Wednesday the 20th. So be ready for that one. And yeah, they've watched. You asked me earlier, they've watched the show. They watched.
All right. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, bros. Great guys, man. We're talking about some real cool people. Not only these two guys, Chris Kane and Dave Canterbury, but all the other people that have been, bringing in their knowledge and contributions and making their shows and posting videos. It's just awesome.
Well,
I said it's pretty much like a community, like a global community, bush community. We're all like bush brothers.
Well, that's what we're hoping to have. We're hoping to have a little bit of everybody, and with you and Mac and everything going on that way, I thank you very much for being here doing these shows with us. Now, with this elevation and with this air, is there times that it, got to be the clothing going up and down? I mean, if you go up into the mountains, you're up there, it's cooler. You come back down, you're going to go through the desert area. It's going to be hot. Then you're going to be wet. When you get back down to the house, I mean, is there major problems also with that stuff?
Well, regardless the season of the year, the time of the year, where we are, we always take at least 2 sets of clothes to the bush. Of course, if it is winter, we will have like a wool blanket, like a good sleeping bag or something like that. But if it's just summer, you don't have anything really heavy. But you do need an extra set of clothes for the night because it tends to rain a lot. And even if it doesn't rain, just because if it rained like a few hours ago, the bushes will be soaked in water, and just by walking in the bushes, your clothes will absorb water, and you'll be as good as if you were as soaked in water as if you were in the rain. So for the night, you really need to have like a dry set of clothes, because otherwise you won't have a very comfortable time, unless you're wearing like nylon or polyester clothes and you had enough time to dry them out. Well, maybe that could work out. I've done that before. But if you are wearing like cotton and blue jeans, you really need to have something else for the night.
I would. At night, you want dry and fluffy, and you got to keep it that way. I've had so many students, they'll get up in the morning and they're wearing, a nice dry pair of sweats, and it's raining, and they'll go from one shelter under their hammock to someone else, or they'll go out and take a leak, and they get those clothes wet. It's like, dude, how are you going to dry that out now? It's going to be wet tonight. So you get out of your hammock, you package those clothes up in a dry bag, put them in your pack, and forget about them until then. You wear yesterday's dirty clothes, because you don't carry. If you carry clean clothes with you for every day, you're just going to have a backpack full of soggy, wet, dirty clothes every day. So you wear yesterday's grimy clothes, you'll be that way in 10 minutes walking through the jungle anyway. So
that's right. That's right. That's how it goes.
And the rain washes the stink out, right? No.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah, and the problem.
Yeah. That's one thing. One thing that impressed me when I moved down to Brazil was you look at the in the bush and all the bugs, and it's like being in a prehistoric movie or something. It's just completely alien. Every time I go to the bush, still, even after 15 years in Brazil, I find something new. I see something new that I've never seen before. I'm always asking Giuliano, "Hey, look at this thing. What is that? Oh, don't touch that. It's a deadly poison." You know, every time I go to the bush, I see something new.
What were the nuts that had the worm had the they were almost white on the inside. They were kind of creamy. You guys were eating them last year. You were finding some, and every time you found one, it had a bug in it.
I think this is the jatobá. They call them stinkto in English.
Well, that goes pretty much for any fruit that falls off and gets to the ground. Anything on the ground will be invaded, will rot away very fast. There's no chance it's gonna be there for like much longer. You know, once it hits the ground, yeah, it's done. I mean, on the first day, there'll be bugs and stuff living inside there, and nasty flies and stuff. That's the way it is. Well, Rich, let me ask you, can you please put on pictures 31, 32, 33, and 9, the ones that I sent you for the last show, please?
Sure, hold on.
Yeah, those are pictures related to the Pantanal area, which is this biome which which we are going to talk about now. It's very interesting place. Can you see it?
Hold
is
on.
It there?
Hold on, I gotta get over here to it.
All right.
You want a pictures 9?
No. Okay, 31.
Okay, hold on. Let me put 31 up.
Okay.
Okay. There you go. 31's up.
Hold on a sec. I cannot see. Oh, there it is. Okay, so that pictures allows you to see where the Pantanal area is here in Brazil. And you can say it is, let's say, inside the Cerrado area, but it's still close to the Amazon forest up in the north. Actually, the upper right side of the Pantanal, the arm that goes up on the left, it actually reaches some of the Amazonian forests. So that's why am I saying this? Although they are tropical forests, like I said, Pantanal will be a much more humid area, and we are talking about seasons in the year when the rain will just pour down like crazy. It will flood like a big area, and then big swamps will be created overnight. And you have all kinds of nasty animals like snakes and piranha and alligators and you name it. And even the bugs there are much more aggressive than the ones that we got down here. If we were to make like a natural shelter for that area, for example, it would have to be pretty different from the ones we got down here. We would have to build it much higher, above the water line, because it dictates a different approach just because of that much water it has. So now, Rich, can you please show people picture number 32, please?
Sure, sure.
Mac, whenever you feel like saying anything, man, go on.
Sure.
Beautiful, beautiful picture.
Oh yeah, there it is.
There you go.
Yeah, that gives you an idea of what happens during the rainy season. It actually creates those lakes, those places where you have a lot of fish and a lot of life,
In the area,
yes.
it's kind of deceptive in that picture because the area in between that open water is just as wet. You go into those trees, it's flooded all the way across those in the rainy season. In the dry season, it'll actually become land again, but in the rainy season, all that will be just solid water in that forest.
And a lot of that land is using for like a farm, not farming, but people raise cattle there. And it has become a problem because during the rainy season, there's not much space left for the cattle to go to. And what's been happening now, they have been replacing, raising cattle for like ecotourism activities because it makes it easier on them. They don't have to manage all those, animals.
They're using that for feeding areas for grass for the cattle to eat. When it floods out, they don't have anywhere to feed the cattle or any way to feed the cattle, right?
Yeah, at least they have been replacing that activity for ecotourism to a degree. Not that everybody is doing that, but it's been happening more commonly nowadays. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
All right. So can you please show them picture 33 now?
Yeah. With the lily pads?
Oh yeah. That's a plant we got here in Brazil. We call that Vitória Regia, if I'm not wrong, and it's really common in that area. Now, this guy that I know, he once told me that some of the people, the local Amazon populations, when they need salt, what they do is they they trim the very edge of that plant, the circle, the upper part of the circle, and they boil the trimmed parts in water for like hours. And what they get after the whole process is a little bit of salt, because it is that difficult to get salt in the Amazon forest. So salt there is like gold. It is like gold. One of the stories that we usually tell our students down here in our survival courses, and Mac could, if you don't mind, Mac, you could tell that story here on, is about those two guys, and one of them has, I think he left his salt bag behind and he couldn't move. Do you remember that story?
Yeah, that was up in Central America. There was a TV program that mentioned that one. These two guys went off to go on a camping trip in the jungle, and the second day they broke camp and left their salt behind in their camp, and they went in and they lost so much salt through their sweat that the one guy started going down. He went down completely with cramps and he was immobile. And the other friend had to leave and try and get help. But he was there for days, basically all cramped up. He couldn't move any of his muscles without extreme cramping. So salt is definitely a part of every one of our kits. You sweat. I think the most water I've ever drank in one day in the Cerrado was 8 liters. And it's the kind of area where it's so hot and you're working so hard that you're sweating, but you're not getting wet. You just see salt crystals appearing on your shirt, on your head, and on your hat.
8 liters, that's a flush and fill, my friend.
It
is. It is. 8 liters, that's 4 of the big 2-liter bottles in one day. And that was still just to maintain hydration and keep ahead of it.
That doesn't include washing or anything else. That's just drinking.
No, that was just drinking.
Oh, that's for drinking. 8 liters for drinking, right?
Yeah, in that kind of heat in the bright sun, you have to, we one of the things in our survival course we always emphasized was hydration. That's your main killer. You're not going to die of hypothermia, although it does happen. In Brazil, people do die of hypothermia. Now, but dehydration will kill you quick.
I do believe that part of that plant, the flower you see there, isn't there a seed that comes off that forms on that, and you can eat the seeds? Am I correct on that? I can't remember.
I don't really know. I don't remember. I don't know about that. I don't know if you can eat those seeds. Seriously, do you know anything about them, Mac?
No, I don't.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to look into that.
I couldn't tell that. Now, Rich, can you please show people picture number 9?
Okay. Number 9. Go. Flooded forest?
Oh yeah. That's some of the stuff people will be looking at during the rainy season.
Now how deep would that be?
Sometimes deeper than 2 meters, 3 meters. It goes really high above the tree line. Wow. Seriously. I mean, it dictates, that's what I'm saying. That dictates a whole different approach when it comes to natural shelter building, for example. And you actually, the local populations, what they do is they live in these houses, which they call palafitas. They are built much higher above the water line. So during the floods, they will be, dry and safe above the water line. They don't have to worry about it. And pretty much for a long part of the year, they are living like above the water. And
now, is it like some of the houses they have in Papua New Guinea where they're up on stilts?
I'm not sure.
Not that high. New Guinea, they're that high to keep away from each other, not the water.
Yeah. So how we're talking like what, 3-4 meters up in the air?
That will. I can tell you for sure because I think it will vary depending on the features of the terrain where you are.
Sure.
But that could vary that much. Let's say from 3 meters to maybe 5 meters. I would say so. I'm not quite sure though, but numbers could definitely vary because the level of the water will vary. If it's a year when it rains more, that means the water will be higher. The level of the water will be higher.
Of course, then this will drive the animals. Certain animals will be able to swim more freely. Other animals will be having to stay out of it and try and get as dry as they can. So the jaguars will be heading for high ground, and the lizards and the alligators will be coming out, or caimans or whatever you got down there.
And that's the problem with the cattle because there is actually very little high ground available. Now you imagine all those animals that do need high ground for any reason, they will go to the few areas which are left, which means that will attract a lot of predators too. So that makes it for a big, rock and roll concert you will be having there, my friend. It's dog eat dog.
Now, what do you have? Do you have alligators down there, or caimans, or what?
Yes,
Sorry?
there are alligators. Yes.
Alligators? Okay.
Alligators, big ones.
We have alligators even in our state.
You have alligators?
Yeah, that's eels. We got electric eels here. We got electric eels that will actually kill an alligator. I actually got a video on my channel, which was not originally shot by me. I actually asked for the permission, the original owner, its owner to upload that video on my channel, and I edited with a little song that has to do with what happens on the video, which is amazing. This guy is actually sitting and he's fishing, and he throws his line, and then an electric eel comes and bites his bait, his hook. And then right after that, an alligator comes and attacks the electric eel, and the thing electrifies the alligator and kills it. You can see the thing being like fried in the water there. And the guy told me that after that, they cut off the line and let the eel free, and the eel survived and it killed the alligator. Of course, we don't have those animals here in our area down here where we are, but those things are present in the Pantanal. It's just part of their lives.
I've seen video where the jaguar has eaten the alligator too.
Oh man, it's dog eat dog there. I'll tell you that. It ain't easy. I mean, it is. It is.
Easy.
No, I'm telling you, because even there are areas here where we are, they don't really. I mean, there are not many threats. Of course, there are snakes. It is like a common sense here. You must keep an eye open for snakes, but it's not like they're gonna attack you the first minute of step into the bush. But so you don't really have to. Oh my gosh, I can be killed at any time.
Snakes, alligators, jaguars, no problem. The thing that would scare me the most down there, ants.
Oh my goodness, you got it right. Absolutely.
How many species do we have here?
430 species of ants in the Atlantic forest.
And they all want to eat you.
Yes, we actually have an ant. We have ants there that will cut down a hammock. Okay, there's a tree we have called the Mbauba, which we use for friction fire, but it's a nice clean looking tree, and they're very straight, and they're usually don't have any vines on them. And they don't have any vines because the ants that colonize that tree will actually come out and nibble off the vines. They won't let vines grow on the tree. So along comes your intrepid survival student. He sees that nice Mbauba tree, and there he goes tying his hammock up and goes to sleep. And the ants come out at night and cut the hammock off.
Well, the other thing is I've watched guys cut down trees, and the first thing they do is they walk over to the tree, and then we're talking a small tree you can cut down with a machete and a couple of swings, and they'll they'll look up at the tree and they'll examine the tree, and then they tap the tree and jump back.
Yes. That's for wasps.
That's right.
Everything
right.
falls out of the tree.
Yep.
That's
Never
not,
know
normal.
when something.
It's not normal. Stay up here. You don't need to go back down there, Mac. It's not normal.
We have a tree out in the Cerrado. We have this tree that's awesome for fire called Candea. And when a wildfire comes through, it'll kill off the Candea trees, and they don't rot because the wood is so filled with oil. But you go up and you see this nice Candea tree, and you go up there and you start snapping off branches, and you realize the entire thing is filled with termites, and you just get showered in termites.
That's right.
So yeah, you got to be really careful. The worst things in the jungle all weigh less than a gram. That's for sure.
All right.
It says here, Jason's got a question for you guys in a room.
Yeah, go on.
He says, can you navigate through there in a boat, or are the trees too close together? He was talking about picture number 9, where it showed the part there.
Yeah, that's what it has to do with something we've mentioned before. To the areas where we go down here in Brazil, we don't usually have to do a lot of navigation off trails because, like I said, there are certain places and certain spots in the jungle which have been previously prepared, so we don't have to cut in. Because seriously, certain areas here, they're not like you just go to the bush, set your hammock. You really have to clean and prepare the place in advance, and it takes time. You will have to cut down a few branches and vines here and there, so you don't want to do that all the time. We usually have areas where we go to, so we pretty much use those areas, and we don't do a lot of walking off trails. But like I mentioned, it all has to do with where you are going to. So again, you must know your area. If you know your area, like even if we go to these more dense forested places, I don't usually use a compass because I'm either falling down a river or I'm walking along trails and I know pretty much where I am. Whereas if I have to step off trail and start navigating for whatever directions, I will depend on a compass, or I will have to look for visual landmarks that I can see and walk to those places and to watch those landmarks, so I could try to establish a line to follow in the jungle. That's pretty much. And even though I still have that option, it can be pretty tricky because sometimes there's a big hole, like a crevice, right in the middle of your azimuth, and you just can't keep following a straight line. You will have to find a way across, or you have to negotiate that obstacle somehow. So, I mean, do you need a compass here? Yes. If you're planning to step off the trail, if you're not going to a place you're familiar with. And you better remember to start taking your azimuth, check out your position before you step into the jungle. Because once you're in there, man,
once you're in there, you've got 10 to 25 meters worth of visibility in dense jungle, and sometimes not even that. And you can miss a campsite if you're coming back and you miss a campsite. You could walk right past it and never even see it. You're not going to see the.
It's happened to me. It's happened to me before, and then people might ask, "What about a definitely? And what about a GPS? Why not take and use a GPS here?" Well, my friends, a GPS in most cases, most of the time, will be useless because they can't get the signals of the satellites, so they can't be traced. And sometimes in certain spots of the forest, of the jungle, depending on how bad or how thick the canopy is, you might be able to mark a point, to point an area there, but you will hardly ever get the chance to use it reliably. So I would say, knowing how to use a compass, being able to navigate with the machete and the compass is still your best option if you have to navigate off trails, if you have to move off trails.
But seriously, right? The last thing you want to do in a jungle is move off trail.
That's right. If you have
a trail, I would rather go 10 kilometers on a trail and not have to cut through 300-400 meters worth of bush. I mean, seriously, because it's work. It's
We are
just
not
work, traveling off
exaggerating.
trail, hard work.
We are not exaggerating. That's pretty much the how bad it is. That's pretty
One
much.
of the questions they have here is, what's the best way to not get lost within thick bush like that?
Well, the best way to not get lost is to, number one, start navigating as soon as you have to begin by navigating.
That's what
And
I
the
said.
problem is they go off into the bush and they're chasing butterflies, and they don't start their journey by navigating and knowing which direction they are, knowing which way the river is from where they are, or whatever. And start from your camp and navigate from your camp, and it's a discipline.
That's
Navigating in thick bush is discipline and it's hard work, and people just don't do it. And they think they're gonna, oh, I have a compass, I'll be okay. They won't have any clue. Okay. The other thing is to leave yourself a good trail, and in Portuguese we call it a picada, a chop. You know, you're gonna cut yourself a trail, and that's the thing. That's your way back out. Is you're gonna follow that trail out, and you can't lose that trail.
And
So
they say, the question here is, in the woods up here we blaze trees so we can find our way in and out. Well, let me tell you, down there when you blaze a tree, you're chopping down stuff, so you're gonna be able to tell where you chopped it down at.
Well, the trail, it's a night and day. If you're looking forward, it's just a wall of green. Behind you, you see this trail chopped through the bush, and that's, you know, it's very hard to lose a trail. And by the same token, it's very easy to track somebody in jungle because they leave so much sign. You can't move through virgin jungle without leaving sign everywhere. So, but the thing is you can take a loop and you can come around and get a few degrees off that trail and never find it again, because you won't see it. It's not like you're going to look over and look down 50 meters away and say, oh, there's our blaze on a tree. You're going to see 3, 4, 15 feet, 20 feet of visibility.
That's right.
And if you lose that trail, you're done.
You are. That's right.
Finding your way back to the trail, you can't see the trail due to the forest, and once you get 15 feet away, there's too much forest to see your way back.
That's right.
But with the same token now, if you guys are off in the, I forget what you call it, but the grasslandish area.
So that's a whole different area.
Then you're going to use a compass and you're going to do other stuff. Same as in the desert area, you're going to find.
Oh yeah, navigating. Yeah, go on.
The Cerrado is a wonderful thing because you have a horizon everywhere you look. You've got mountain peaks and you've got all kinds of reference all around you, and you can pick your trail. The thing you're going to find in the Cerrado is you see like a forest you want to go to. It's maybe a mile or two away, and you plot an azimuth to that, and then you go down, maybe half a mile down the ridge, you get to a ravine which is 50, 60 feet deep. And you have to navigate around these gigantic obstacles that are cutting through the landscape. And there's no such thing as a straight line in Brazil.
No, and I know there's. I've seen Giuliano come up to it, and I know you guys camped right along one. You come up to the river. You're not going to walk up to the river. You might drop down to the river.
Right.
So learning navigation, even up here compared to down there. You need to learn how to read your maps. You need to learn how to navigate with a compass because, it's not a straight line going up the hill.
Yeah, but finding good maps here is a problem too. So you better not rely too much on maps because you just don't have so many quality maps here available. There are some, but they are not so easily available for people. So your better way to navigate here, if you ask me, is pretty much what Mac pointed out. Start navigating before you step into the bush, measure, take your azimuth, write down, because you will be changing your direction a lot of times just because of the natural obstacles, and that's pretty much the way it is. But just before we are done here, and I can see we got a few minutes left, I just would like to finish up this, to give people some more little information about the Pantanal area here too. One thing is the Pantanal is the size of Portugal, the European country, so it's a pretty big area. It's pretty much the size of an European country, and it can be described as the biggest swamp in the world, the biggest flooded area here. Like the map shows, it is in the center of South America, near the Bolivian border, and it's a flat basin that drains water and attracts fauna from the surrounding areas and plateaus, right? Actually, people, if you a lot of people think they will come down to Brazil, and the first moment they step into the tropical area, they will start seeing animals and araras and birds, and it's not quite like that. It's really difficult to spot, animals here. You will see a few birds and like monkeys and biquinos and all that, but the big mammals and even big leopards and all that stuff, they don't show up too easily. What I'm saying is the Pantanal is the best area to see the animals if you want to see this kind of biodiversity here, because you just have more variety there, and for some reason they can be more easily spotted than in the other tropical forests that we have, the Amazon forest and the Atlantic forest, so to say. I think it's still the best option for tourists that want to do this ecotourism trip here to Brazil. If you want to see animals, the Pantanal is the place to go. Otherwise, you won't be seeing a lot of beautiful araras unless you go to like parks, zoos or anything like that.
Yeah, you see vegetation.
Yeah, that's right. That's what.
The animals are there. They're just hiding in the vegetation.
Except for, as Giuliano says, you can see the elephants.
Oh yeah, I got. Hey Mac, tell them about the elephant you used to have, because people don't believe it that we have elephants down here in Brazil, and we have the baskets that we put on the top of them and go for rides in the jungle with our girls.
Sure.
Dude, that's
tiger hunt. Yeah,
What is the biggest wild animal you have down there?
The anta.
Is it the biggest one here down here?
The biggest animal in South America is the anta, which is a tapir. That
Put that in English, dagnabbit. I don't know what that is.
A tapir.
A what?
Tapir. T-A-P-I-R.
Tapir.
They've got that funny nose.
The tapir. It's like a big pig.
They're bigger than a pig, though.
Yeah, some kind of pig. It's big though. Yeah, back in prehistoric times, we had the saber tooth here too. And during the megafauna ages, we had all those big, tigers and animals.
T-A-P-I-R, tapir.
Yeah.
Yeah, tapir. That's right.
Okay, shape of a pig with a short, prehensile snout.
Yes.
Now, how big them bad boys get?
They get really big. They'll get like 300 pounds.
300 kilograms.
600 pounds. Yeah, they're big.
Well,
they're
big.
The biggest animals that we have in Minas Gerais, we have the capivara, which is like a giant guinea pig, about the size of a pig. They are everywhere.
Are they dangerous? Either one is a tapir or the other thing. Are they dangerous?
No, and they're both delicious.
Oh.
From what I hear.
Well, yes. I know guinea pig is delicious.
No, capivara is very good.
I've not met any kind of pig I don't like. Let me tell you.
Did you try any of those capybaras that live by the lake at Pampulha?
I did not try any of them, but I have eaten capivara. But they're very tempting to bow hunt. I had a longbow down there, and very tempting to go kill one. Very illegal though.
Is it illegal down there to take one?
Yes, it's illegal to kill them.
Well, that's like a big, like, what do I say? It's like a beaver. Well, it's bigger than a beaver. I know it's a water rat is what it is, but a water pig or something like that, yeah.
That's a big chunk of meat that we got down here, I'll tell you that.
Well, you guys eat that bacon down there. Now, see, we get strips of bacon up here. You guys had big chunks of bacon down there.
Chunks of bacon.
Yeah, so I'm jealous. I'm jealous with that one. Boy, you guys were eating that, and I was saying all kinds of nasty words to you guys on that video, let me tell you.
That's a Giuliano thing. Every time he goes in the bush, he brings a couple pounds of bacon and a cheese.
Oh, but I save my bacon for the bush, though. I don't eat much bacon outside the bush.
Up here, when I go out camping, and I like to take for the first night. I like to take a leg of lamb.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good too.
So yeah.
Meat here in Brazil is very cheap if compared to the States. So I mean, it's just much cheaper, right?
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Well, guys, I think you did a wonderful job tonight. For the next show, we've got a video because our friend is out of town tonight, so he gave me a video for his gray water here in Michigan, and that's going to take care of his shot for tonight, or not Michigan, excuse me, he's in Pennsylvania. It'll be his experimental gray water that the government is letting him put in to live on his land. That's going to be the next video that's coming up after you guys.
Okay.
I want to invite you guys back. Giuliano is going to be back next week on Friday, coming in every Friday at the same time. And of course, Mac, you're always welcome to come in anytime for any of the shows and all that stuff.
Well, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Wonderful for having you here. I've watched both of you for so long, for numerous times, and we've talked back and forth. And I really enjoyed watching you guys use the, when my buddy had come up with that, I won't say he came up with the idea, but he came up to me with the idea of using the, what do they call it thing? The bearing in the bearing block.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys went and put the bearings in the leather cases and everything
Leather,
else.
yeah.
How'd that work out for you guys down there? It looked like it worked out really good.
Oh yeah.
That's fantastic. That's part of my, that's in my possibles pouch right now.
Is it?
I love that. Yeah, yeah.
I just used it yesterday for a workshop I was giving for these for this community for this social work we do down here, and I used the very same hand bearing block for that.
Man, I have learned so much from watching both of you, and I greatly appreciate it. Your friendship and talking back and forth on the internet like we have.
Thank you, Rich.
I just want to thank you both for that.
Thank you, Mac.
Thanks a lot, Rich.
All right, guys. Well, you have a good one. We'll jump out of here, and I'll play this next one by Fixed by Doc, which is his show for the Self-Reliance Cabin. And Giuliano, hit me up next time, whatever pictures you want to put up for next week.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
guys.
Right.
for there.
God bless y'all. We'll catch y'all later.
God bless you too.
know.
Bye bye.